Okay, we have 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the workshop to order. We have a quorum present, and we have the honor of Miss Kathy Rawls travel here from Just City tonight to present some details on our loggers' retirement. So you have the floor. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So I'm going to start by giving just an overview of what loggers is, a little bit of our background. I want to talk about how your benefits are calculated. I'll talk about the level of benefits that you currently have and the potential for an upgrade, which is what I think you all are exploring. So we were created by the Missouri General Assembly in 1967, so we've been around a little while. We have over 860 participating employers. As a matter of fact, I visited 2 employers here in the city of Troy just today. I was with the ambulance district earlier, and I just came from emergency services before coming here this evening. We have 36,500 active members, and I will say now over 29,000 benefit recipients. We are a defined benefit plan, and this is very different from a defined contribution plan, and I'll talk about the differences here in just a minute. But this is some highlights that explain that we are a very financially stable organization, and we're 95% funded, which means if we had to pay out every single member today their retirement benefits, we could pay 95 out of 100 of them, their full benefit. That's pretty good. So I mentioned we're a defined benefit plan and not a defined contribution plan. We have our own investment professionals, and we're the ones who take care of making those investments for our members. Our members do not have to make contributions unless the employer chooses to have their employees help fund the benefit. So members don't have to worry about wondering if they have enough money in an account balance, because that's not what they're doing. You're not creating an account balance. You're creating a benefit that you are going to have every single month in retirement. So this is the formula that we use to calculate each individual member's benefits. So every employer chooses a benefit multiplier when they join, and that is something that can be changed, and we'll talk about that this evening. Currently, the city has chosen a 1.25% multiplier. We multiply that times a final average monthly salary, and then we multiply that by service credit, or how long you work. So below it, that final line there is just an example to give you an idea of how this works. So using the city's benefit multiplier, I just made up a $4,000 a month final average salary, and we can talk about how that's calculated. 25 years of service. That means if an employee meets those criteria, they will receive $1,250 every single month of retirement. Every single month, until they pass away. And if they choose a spousal benefit plan, their spouse could receive a percentage of that as well. Now that amount never decreases. It's not an account balance that ever dwindles down. This is a guaranteed monthly payment. In fact, we also institute cost of living adjustments when they're called for, so a member's benefit could increase, so that all of our retirees always have full purchasing power in retirement, because we exist for our members, for our retirees. So talking about final average salary, a benefit multiplier, retirement eligibility, employee contributions, those are all the different types of benefit elections an employer can make in order to best meet their financial needs as well as the needs of their employees. So there are so many different ways, so many different combinations of benefit programs, and that's, I think, one of the best aspects of loggers, is it really offers options. Options that work best for the employer and options that work well for our members. When the city adopted loggers, the city adopted it August 1st, 2008, they had to select 4 permanent elections. The first permanent election was to join. Once you have joined loggers, it is a permanent membership. They also chose annual hours of coverage, and you chose 1,500 annual hours. So that means that any employee who works at that number of hours annually or more has to be provided with loggers coverage. The city of Troy also elected to cover 100% of prior service when it joined. So that means any employees joining prior to that join date of August 1st, 2008, all of that service would count toward their vesting, toward making them a vested member. They also chose different flexible programs, the benefit multipliers, and like I said, you have a range from 1 to 2.5%. The 2.5% is if you don't elect to pay into Social Security, but typically the highest one is a 2% one. And the larger the multiplier, the greater the benefit for the employee, but it's also at a greater cost to the employer as well. So these are just different examples that show that as the program increases, the multiplier increases, the more of pre-retirement income a member can count on when they retire. So you can see on that chart, I bolded the L3, which is where the city is, the 1.25%. So that means that after 20 years of service, a member can calculate they will bring in about 25% of their pre-retirement income. The longer they work, the higher that percentage as well. So I just chose 20 years as a number to kind of round up. Now, the city also had a choice between a final average salary range. They could choose between a 5-year, which is what the city does have, or a 3-year. So what we do is it doesn't necessarily mean your last 5 years of employment are used for that final average salary. We go back 10 total years from the employee's last day of paid employment, and we look for the highest 5 consecutive years. And we use that to determine that final average salary range. So again, you can change this too. So every 2 years, this is one of those flexible benefit elections. You can choose between a 5-year or a 3-year. Now, to be eligible to receive this logger's benefit, a member has to be vested. They have to work for 5 total years under logger's covered employment. And that could be with one employer or multiple, just so long as it totals 60 months or 5 years. And they can't be no more than a 10-year break in service and accumulating those 60 months. And once that happens, then another flexible benefit is choosing what we call retirement age 60 for general employees, 55 for police, fire, or public safety if that's selected as an actuarial department. Or the city could choose the rule of 80. That's where your age plus your years of service equal 80, and then you can retire. And that allows for an even earlier retirement. So that is one of those flexible benefits as well. And then they can also choose employee contributions. Now this doesn't mean that people get kind of confused about these employee contributions. To be honest, loggers is costing the city money, a percentage of their payroll, and it can be expensive. And so they can ask the employees to help fund this benefit. It's not like they're putting money into an account balance. That's not what these employee contributions do. What they do is they help fund this benefit. Those employee contributions are always guaranteed to be paid back to the employee. When they retire, those funds are paid first to the retiree from those contributions. If they decide to leave loggers covered employment, those are always guaranteed back to the member, and so they can ask to be refunded those employee contributions plus the interest they've been earning as well. So I did have this handout, and I'm going to share this with all of you, and it shows your elections. Have you take one, pass it around? I'll share this table over here too. That leaves enough for Does everybody have one? So this shows that when you joined, you chose 1,500 annual hours of coverage. That can't be changed. You decided to cover 100% of prior service. That's one of those permanent elections that you made. Then everything else below that, that benefit program, life programs, those are all employer benefit elections that you can change if you want to. This second page shows a benefit calculation, and I've highlighted the L3, which is what you currently have, and I've highlighted the L7, which is what you're thinking about. These employee contributions, again, this kind of shows you, So let's say your city, and this is just an example, this isn't your city, pay 16% of payroll for loggers' retirement benefits. If you ask for employee contributions, if you do this, it is mandatory that every employee who's covered under loggers would have to contribute. It's not optional. So if you decide to go with employee contributions, keep in mind, everyone who receives coverage under loggers has to make those contributions. So that does reduce the employer's overall percentage of payroll that they would have to pay. It just helps to pay for the benefit. So I also have a handout for you all, and these were emailed to you back in July when they were requested. We can do in-house estimates and run those numbers to kind of show you how this is going to affect your monthly cost. So we did the estimate for upgrading to the L7, what it would cost you, and then the L7 with 2% employee contributions. So I also printed off copies of those as well. I didn't know if you have those available, but I have them if you want them. So this first one is with employee contributions. And then this is without employee contributions, if the city covers the cost. It's, come back to the microphone. It is 2 pages because you have 2 departments. No, this is the other one. I have with employee contributions, one without. This is all around.
I think that's what we already have on our way. We just didn't realize what it was.
Yep. Okay. So I did want to explain, the rates look different because you have 2 different actuarial departments. You have a general department and a police department. So based on those numbers, this is how it would affect the payroll. Just something else I wanted you all to keep in mind as we're coming to an end in 2024. At the end of every February, that is when our actuaries start looking at and your annual valuation numbers are run. So keep in mind, these numbers were based on your July numbers of 20, and those rates may change after your annual valuations are done at the end of February. So maybe that is something you want to keep in mind as you go through this process. Do you want to kind of wait and see what happens when you get your annual statements? Do you want to go ahead and consider this? I mean, it's totally up to you, but I just felt like I should bring that up.
Is it on here somewhere how much it costs us currently?
Do you have a copy of your annual valuation from last year? That would be what you're currently paying.
And we have it, but we didn't get it.
How many copies of that? This is a bigger document. But yes.
Thank you.
This is your annual evaluation from last year. I think it's pages 13 and 14 that we need to look at. Excuse me. I'm not sure, but I don't think you've made changes to any benefit elections since joining. So your costs have been pretty consistent, I would think. And unless you have a lot of changes in your payroll over this last year, they're probably going to remain consistent.
Anybody have any questions?
Is there any employee contribution to that now?
Currently, your employees do not make any contributions. Now, one of the things that we offer to our employers is that every 2 years, they can request a supplemental estimate, an official one, from the actuaries at no cost to them, in order to get more precise numbers as to what the cost of a benefit change would be. So if you wanted to look at that, right now we have those two in-house estimates, one for increasing your benefit level and one with increasing the benefit level with employee contributions. You can get that free supplemental from official one, from our actuary for one of those benefit changes. But if you want to run both of them, the second one would cost the city. So those in-house estimates are fairly accurate. So I would, if you want to continue with this, the next step would be to request an official supplemental valuation. So pick the benefit change that you think you're in favor of, or the most in favor of, and then you would go from there. Our actuaries take anywhere from like 4 to 6 weeks to complete that supplemental valuation. Once it's done, they give it to us, I would forward it to the city. You would have to post it for 45 calendar days, the full valuation. You can make it part of your meeting minutes, you can literally hang it page by page, and it's like 40 some pages. If you want to, somewhere in the building, you can have a copy of it available sitting on a table. There's numerous ways you can make it available to the public for viewing. After that 45-day viewing period, if you decide you would like to adopt this benefit change, then you would pass a resolution or an ordinance, and then send us a copy of that passed resolution or ordinance within 10 days of it passing, letting us know the effective date of when you would want this to go into effect. And I do feel like, I'm not sure if you realize this, but if you adopt an upgrade, it's retroactive. Meaning that all employees currently employed at this city would go back to the beginning of their employment with the city and upgrade their benefit to that. So that is part of that unfunded actuarial cost there. That's why there's that change there, because all benefit upgrades are retroactive.
Can
Yes.
I ask a question?
Sure.
It's over my head, but can you explain to us how these numbers translate into actual, what it will cost the city in annual payment? I mean, is,
So, sorry, I have to leave. So if you look, this is the percent of your payroll that you're paying now.
Correct.
That's what the percent would be for just your police force
Right.
right here. So whatever that dollar amount is, it would increase by 1.2%.
okay,
So that 1.2%. And then this is the increase. Now this is added to that unfunded liability that's already amortized. It's
Okay.
already built in to this cost. It's built in as that prior service cost.
so we should just,
So this is going to.
we'll just use the percentage in case we.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Because this number is included in that percentage. That's amortized for that.
I just wanted to be correct.
You said that was
and stuff.
I'm sorry, you said that's a whole or nothing, but is it two different things with the, say the police department wants to do it, the rest of the city don't? Would the police department still be able to do it? Since they're two different,
I believe that both departments would have to adopt the upgrade. They'd have to be, unless it's somehow it's a separate entity. I'm not sure, but I could definitely find out if one could upgrade and the others have a different level, but I think that might be possible, but I'm not sure.
okay, thank you.
When I find that answer, who should I reply to? Who should I send that information to?
You send that to HR.
Okay, I will do that. I will verify whether one department can upgrade and another stay the same, or if everyone has to adopt the upgrade. I will find that out for sure.
So it looks like between $730,000 a year and maybe $800,000 a year would be the, is that,
I don't have the note. I gave you all my copies
I'm
of
sorry.
the numbers.
well,
Well,
yeah. So the increase, you got a number here, 363 for general employees and 737 for police.
Where are you seeing that?
Where do you see 737?
On the L3 to L7. This sheet here on the second page. Maybe I'm not looking at it correctly. The numbers on the chart there between the current.
this is that actuarial accrued liability. Number is already built into your prior service cost rate.
Okay.
So they're not charging you an additional $361,000 all at one time. It's just that increasing that because all of these upgrades are all of these increases would be retroactive.
Right.
So that unfunded liability covers those years prior to this,
That's
at this new level.
Linda, can I ask you a question? Since you do, is there a way to find out actually what it, because in here it doesn't have an actual cost.
I would have to probably go by an average salary that we're paying.
Like that we're, do we,
I could come up with something.
yeah.
I just
we're-
didn't understand this until tonight, so.
That's, yeah, because even on these pages, on 13 and 14, there's not an actual cost of what we pay in every year, correct? That I've seen?
Well, it's a percentage of your
It
payroll.
should have to be a percentage of, I mean, we could go with our current salary on those percentages and get,
Okay.
exactly.
Because like on this page, the 361, 434 would already include what we are currently paying, or is that in addition to that?
It's included in that prior service cost rate.
Okay,
It's part of that unfunded liability that's
so I think that's
amortized.
where we need to know is what we're going up. Because I think when we're looking at it, we're looking at that we're possibly going up 361,000 or 406,000.
So these are percentages. That supplemental valuation gives you a dollar breakdown. It tells you based on the current salary data that we have. And so that supplemental valuation includes cost, dollar amounts.
So if the board decided to move forward, they would pick a plan, ask for that actuarial, and then you would have those exact dollar amounts.
Yes. And, again, keep in mind that they're gonna run annual valuations at the end of February, and so that could also have an effect on your rates.
For like my curiosity would be, are we paying 250,000 now and we're gonna go up 140,000, or are we going, does that make sense what I'm asking?
That's what we paid last fiscal year. I mean, that is current. That's what we paid all last fiscal year, but they both went up, both percentages. This is what we paid that, that's the fetish. So that's the payments, that's not.
So far this year?
So it was $335,954.96.
So currently, as of right now, almost to the end of December, we paid 335,000 and some.
No,
No.
that was last
that
fiscal
was
last
last
year.
year.
Last
Okay.
fiscal year. So that ended June 3rd.
Gotcha.
Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Rawls while she's here?
think we need to get a whole package together of what it costs without contribution from employers, employees, and what it would, what the difference would be. Say, my daughter works for the city of St. Peter's. She got L6, she pays 4%. She's got a really good retirement. Bear in mind.
Just to give everybody just a quick idea, last month, total payroll for police was $189,757, and currently they pay 10%. If you changed it to the 14.1, instead of paying $18,975, you pay $26,756.
So another,
So that $8,000 or $9,000, that's it. And November was a long month, it was a 5-day month.
So that's just for police department, just for 1 month.
Right.
I have a
do you know
question.
what city, like the rest,
Pardon me?
do you know what the rest-ish would be?
I do have a question. Is that an upfront payment, or is that over a period of years to get that caught up?
Which part is
If
it
they go
upfront
to an
payment?
L7 or an L6, and most of the departments around are L6s, but is that a payment, upfront payment right away, or is that over a period of years?
So the city can, of course, keep their monthly payment. If they want to decrease that unfunded liability, you can make a lump sum payment toward all of that unfunded liability, which lowers that prior service cost rate, but you're still gonna have the normal cost rate going forward, okay? So it does lower your payment to make those lump sum payments, but no one's required to do that. Those costs are amortized and as a part of your monthly payment already. So you can make a lump sum payment to lower those monthly costs, but you don't have to.
Yes.
So there's not an upfront payment that has to be made in order to receive that benefit.
14. That was on the long, that was on the 5 weeks.
So
Do you know
Dish
what
was
other
thinking 20,000
cities around here, what level they're at?
Ish.
Well, you can, if you want to, go to our website and under the member tab, go down to employer listing and we list the benefit levels of all of our members. So you can see their benefit multiplier, you can see what final average salary they've selected, whether or not they've chosen rule of 80, whether or not they make employee contributions. So you can see that for any of our members on our website.
And that's non-contributing.
I'm afraid I don't have that memorized for everybody.
That's fine.
Sorry.
Anybody else on the board have a question? So we can, if you think of something, send Caitlin an email, Linda an email, we'll get whatever numbers you want. We can discuss this next month and vote on whether to ask for the actuarial in February and then
Go
see.
from there.
Yeah, we'll kind of get some numbers and then decide, how they want to proceed.
Sure. And Caitlin, I'll get that to you
Okay.
probably late afternoon tomorrow, because
Okay.
I'm still on the road a little bit tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Sure. As long as my car doesn't break down.
Well, thank you for coming. Be careful going home. Appreciate it.
Thank you.